Hello, it's Alex. Welcome back, or welcome. Today's video is a review of the Jolene dress from Ready to Sew. I have wanted to make this dress for a while. It was on my plans for kind of autumn and winter, and I got this fabric probably a couple of months ago. It came from Sew Me Sunshine. It's actually a Needlecord. I'm not sure how easy that's picking up. Obviously in this rather fab teal colour. It's probably about as thick as you'll want to go with this pattern, because obviously Needlecord doesn't have an awful lot of drape, and proper thick cord dry would be too thick. But there was a version on the Ready to Sew website in a denim or a chambray, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I think it's panned out just fine. So the dress comes with a lot of options. There are two collar options, a pointed and a curved collar. There are two lengths. There's a sort of knee length and a midi length. There are a couple of sleeve options. I think there's it's a short dolman sleeve, and then the 3/4 length sleeve that I've got here. And there's also a blouse option which has a couple of different hems, because it's kind of a bit like a, what am I wanting to say? I want to say pelmet, and that's not right. But anyway, there's a sort of straightforward blouse option and then one with a kind of curved hem at the bottom. So those are all the options, but then not so long ago they also released an expansion pack that gives a couple more sleeves. I think there's a puff sleeve and a full length sleeve. I'm not sure if it's got cuff and placket, but it's certainly a long sleeve option, and also a ruffle for the bottom of the skirt. So combining the two, you've actually got an awful lot of different options there. So I did buy the expansion pack, but actually I didn't end up using any of the options on the expansion pack. As you can see, I went for the 3/4 length sleeve, which also has a little tab. I went for the rounded collar. Can't ever really see me wearing it done up like this, but I've got it as an option. And I went for the longer option. That's the midi option. I didn't change anything at all in terms of the length, so it's literally sort of out of the packet, as it were. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but it does have a slight shirt tail hem. It's not massively so, so it's not too much of a difficult one to turn up, but it does have a slight shirt tail hem to it, which again I really like. And the reason I wanted to make it out of this cord fabric, which I'm really pleased with, is because I just thought it would be very versatile. I thought I could wear it in winter and wear it in summer, which is why I didn't go for the longer sleeved option. Having said that, I don't know that I could actually get a long sleeve. I thought I could just wear, you know, my old favourite really, a long sleeve jersey layer underneath it. I'm not sure that is going to be possible, because there's not a lot of room. I mean, there is room in there, it's not uncomfortable, but there's not a lot of room. Having said that, obviously this is a Needlecord, so it's a thicker fabric. If I made this out of a viscose or something, I'm sure it would be different. I did do a little bit of research into sewing with cord or with Needlecord before I made it, because I was a little bit nervous, but actually I had no problems at all. Possibly because I have a Faf sewing machine which has a sort of integrated walking foot, so that made things a lot easier. The one thing that was different for me this time with this pattern is that this is the pattern, you might remember, I had printed from Fabulosew. They gave me some free printing. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. And this was one of the things that they printed up for me. And I have to say, I'm an absolute convert now. I am usually way too impatient to send my patterns out to be printed. 9 times out of 10, I decide to do something on a whim and I want to sew it within the next day or two. But, oh, it's so joyful. Not doing all that printing out and then cutting and sticking, and your feet are tired. By the time you've put it all together, before you've even got your fabric out to start cutting it, you're exhausted. Or I'm exhausted, maybe it's just me. Complete convert now. And in fact, when I sent the files off, obviously you do that electronically, when I sent the files off to be printed out, I think it came back within a day or 2 days at the most. So I think it doesn't take an awful lot of planning to do that going forward. And the paper that it comes on, I had really high hopes for that paper, because it felt to me like it was not too thin like the tissue paper and not thick like A4, photocopier paper. And that's true. It was the Goldilocks of pattern printing. Not too thin, not too thick, just right. So yeah, going to be doing that again much more in future. In terms of sizing, I chose a size 46, which is basically, as per usual with me, my waist is my widest measurement. I went from the waist measurement because I thought the nature of this design, the last thing I wanted to do is to be tight, but I did grade down a size to the bust, because equally I could see that because of the style lines, because you've got the gathers here along this seam, I thought if the bust is too big, that potentially could look really poofy and strange. Not sure that's a technical term. And I'm glad I did that. Wasn't really too difficult to do. It was just a matter of drawing some lines from one size down to the next size. Because I think the nature of using Needlecord and it just not having any drape, I did find that this area is a little bit poofy. I had to kind of press it down a bit, which I wouldn't have had in something more lightweight. Overall, my experience with this pattern was fabulous. This is the one that I mentioned in passing I had no unpicking with, and you can't say fairer than that, can you? So there were lots of things I really like about it, not least the star lines. I've said before I like a princess line, and in effect that's what these seam lines here are doing. It's, honestly, it's just a dead easy style, isn't it, that you could put on any day. And that's partly why I wanted to make it out of something a bit hardier, like a cord or a denim. But I could also very easily make a more lightweight, drapey, slightly more feminine version out of a viscose or a print or a linen for the summer. So I'm really pleased with it. I love the style lines. I love the fact that there's so many options, but there are a couple of things I'm not so pleased about. And the first one is that, as I said, I made this in a size 46, and that is in fact the largest size it comes in. So initially I thought, this isn't very impressive. And then I thought, well, hold on, let me just go and have a look on their website, because so many pattern companies do have intentions to increase their size range. There's been so much publicity around it. I got an email just recently from Deer & Doe saying they're working on it. So I thought, well, let's just go and find out. And sure enough, there is on their website, on their blog, a post about their intention to increase their size ranges. Now, the one thing I hadn't clocked until it was pointed out in the blog post is that their patterns are all either J names or P names. And so, for example, I've made the Jocko jumper before. Everything begins with a J or a P. And what it says in that blog post is that the patterns that are P patterns are the ones that are either in the new size range or intended to be in this new size range. I can't quite remember which, but anyway, are going to have a more inclusive range, but the J patterns not, or perhaps not for the time being. And unfortunately, this being a Jolene, that means that this is going to stay with a size 46, this size being the largest, which is a bit disappointing. It is a really interesting read, that blog post. It's very frank about what their intentions are, what obstacles there are in their way, how it affects them as a small business, and what their plans are in the future. So intentions are good. It's just a shame this isn't one of the ones that's, planned for a greater size range. And the other thing that I'm not pleased about, and as nitpicky as it might sound, page 1 error. Where are the pockets? This pattern doesn't have any pockets, and most of us that sew love a pocket. It's half the reason we sew our own clothes. So luckily for me, I spotted it just before I constructed it, and I had enough fabric left to make my own. So my version does have pockets, just inseam pockets. I did a pattern cutting course a million years ago, and we were told then when you're drafting a pocket piece, literally just draw around your hand. So that's what I did. I could have used a pocket piece from another pattern, but I just sort of cobbled mine together, and yeah, just put them on before sewing up the side seams. If I'm honest, it's probably a centimetre too low. So yeah, if you do make it and you do want pockets, you're going to have to draft your own. And I can't believe that they've made a dress pattern without pockets. Having said that, I wouldn't let it put you off. It's easy to add pockets on. There'll be lots of tutorials here on YouTube if it's not something you've done before. So I wouldn't let it put you off. There is reference to a sew along and to tutorials, so I think there's a lot of hand holding on the way. So it's probably quite a nice one to do if you wanted to, you know, perhaps get to the next stage and do something a little bit adventurous. If you're a beginner, you know, there is an awful lot of help there for you. One thing I really liked is the way that they do the plackets. I've said a couple of times recently when I've made shirts and they've had kind of grown on plackets where you just fold over the placket, that if you've got a fabric that's not dual-sided, that is a bit of a pain, and would have been a pain with needle cord. But the plackets on this are separate pieces, so I like that, and it's a feature that I'm going to be looking out for in future with any shirts that I made. So I really like that. And I also really liked the very first instruction on the instruction sheet, which tells you to click through to a link for an appropriate playlist, which is a YouTube link, and takes you through to Dolly Parton singing, of course, Jolene. And when I first saw that, I thought, oh, that's a gimmick, why would I click that? And then I thought, oh, come on, you miserable old bag, click the link. And I did, and to be honest, I whacked the sound up in my sewing room and thoroughly enjoyed a bit of Dolly. Who doesn't like a bit of Dolly Parton? So yeah, I quite liked that touch. It certainly, I must have been in a grumpy mood or something. It certainly cheered me up. On my Friday Sews video, I mentioned that this was all ready and I was just waiting for buttons, and I'd been struggling to try and match the colour really, because I'm only able to do that online. And I'd ordered those Prim snaps in blue, and when they came, they just looked a bit sort of cheap, and the colours didn't quite match. I think I would have got away with it, but they didn't quite match. Anyway, somebody commented, and I'm really sorry because I did go through the comments to try and find out who it was, and it's got lost in the ether. But somebody said, why don't you go for metal snaps? Why didn't I think of that? Obviously, because I think I'd said, you know, sometimes the snaps ping off, and I do agree, the metal ones are hardier. So I thought that was a brilliant idea. So I've got a bit of sun just blinding me here. It was hard to find metal snaps that were in packs that would give me the right number of, the right number really. There seemed to be lots of silver ones, but it was quite hard to find gold ones. I tend to wear gold jewellery, so I didn't want silver, and I also didn't want kind of bright gold. I just thought it was too blingy. Wanted the kind of antiqued gold, which is what I got, but the only way I could find them was by buying a kit from Amazon, which is a kit that's got a number of, I think it's got silver, gold and the antiqued one. So I ended up paying about £10 for it. They seem to have a number of exactly the same kit, so I just bought the one that was the cheapest. I was a bit, they're going to be a bit cheap and cheerful and be kind of rubbish quality, but no, actually they were really good and they went on brilliantly. My little Japanese punch came into its own, because in the kit it comes with a punch that you hammer in to get the hole through the fabric before inserting the snaps, and it just didn't work very well. And then I had the brainwave, hold on, let's see if I've got the exact same attachment for my Japanese punch, you know, for the same diameter, which I did, and that just works brilliantly. So I really do recommend those little Japanese punches. I bought mine on eBay for about £7. It wasn't expensive. It just comes into its own from time to time. But yes, once I did that, my main concern was getting these, not so much getting the snaps on, but are they going to ping off when I undo it? And what I found was that actually it was an absolute dream. I think the trick to getting them to sit nicely is to make sure that there's enough thickness in your fabric. So if I was doing this again with perhaps a different fabric, a lighter weight fabric, I would test it before putting the plackets on and add extra interfacing until I got enough, fold it over the number of times that your placket's going to be, and just test that you've got enough thickness there, because if it's too thin, that's where the kind of back and the front of the snaps seem to kind of become loose and then more likely to ping off. But so far so good on the snaps front. I'm trying to get closer to show you these studs and this bodice, but I really am being blinded right now. But yeah, overall, I'm really, really pleased. It's a thumbs up from me. If it came in a wider size range and they had pockets, it would be 10 out of 10. Maybe I'm just being picky. In conclusion, I'm really happy with it. It's exactly the dress that I envisaged. I'm really happy with the fit. I'm really happy that it came together nice and easily with no unpicking. I like the style of it. I love the colour of this fabric. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I really like your comments, so let me know what you think. Let me know if you've made one of these, because I'd like to know how the other options turned out. In the meantime, I will be back on Friday with Friday Sews, and look after yourselves. Bye bye.